Welcome to Blueprint IoT. In this video we will see some stuff spinning fast, we will see some wobbly stuff, but we will also see some cool camera positioning stuff. But before we get started, we need to first take a look on what a spin coater actually is and how it works. As the name suggests already, you spin the whole wafer as fast as possible. Usually you're aiming for something like 6000 RPM. We didn't reach the 6000 RPM completely in our setup, but we will come to this later. So as fast as possible until around 6000 RPM, but it's actually quite hard to hit these high rotations. Once the wafer is spinning, you apply a droplet of your coating in the middle, and thanks to the forces due to the spinning wafer, this droplet will be kind of like dispensed over the whole wafer. It will be pulled towards the edges and then eventually shoot over the edges, and you are left with a thin coating on your wafer. This is a very even coating, a very thin coating, much more so if you would like apply it with a paint gun, a high pressure paint gun or something. It would apply a lot of coating and it would be not as even as with this spinning motion basically. So to build such a device, we first of all need some sort of main housing where we will mount all our components into. Then obviously we need some sort of electrical motor to create a spinning force or to create the RPMs that we need. And then on top we have our wafer, so that's like roughly what we need. But obviously we need something in between to connect the two, the motor and the wafer. So the wafer needs to sit on something, so we have some sort of a rod in between, and then we need some ball bearings. Better go with two, that is more stable, and those ball bearings are then holding the rod in the middle, and now we should be able to turn the rod at high speeds. Nevertheless, we need to attach the wafer to the rod, so we need some sort of interface here. So we go with an O-ring where the wafer lays on top and can be basically somehow connected to the rod. Since the wafer is a very sensitive piece of material and we can't just bolt it down or drill a hole in it or whatever, we need to hold it with another force. And the force we're going to use is suction. We will use a vacuum within the O-ring basically to create a certain downforce to hold the wafer in place while we're spinning it. And already here it becomes very obvious that the positioning of the wafer is important. If the wafer is a little bit out of center, you will have a huge force to the right or to the left and the wafer will just fly off, and we will actually see this later on in the videos. So exact positioning is important, and then the downforce needed to hold the wafer in place is not that big that you need to create. But how do we create this downforce? How do we create a vacuum? Before we go ahead here, let me jump into the CAD, because that's actually quite a bit complicated design, so we better look at it in 3D. So here we are with the rough design of the core of the whole system. So we have our outer shell here, the gray shell here in the middle, and this is basically just to enclose everything. We can see one hole here, so that's where we will hook up a vacuum or like a pneumatic fitting actually to suck out the air to create our vacuum. Let's get rid of the outer body for a moment and look at the inside. In the inside we have the ball bearings, which are blue here, the two ball bearings, which at the same time act as a vacuum isolator kind of. And then here at the top we have a hole to create the suction, and we have this little groove here where the O-ring can then be held in place and the wafer can be placed on top. Moving on down here, we have a lot of holes. And why do we need those holes? To showcase this, let me quickly give you a bit of a different angle here. So here we have a cross section of the whole core or the whole device, and you can see again here are the ball bearings in blue, and the red part is the rod basically in the middle, and then the gray one is the enclosure. So here we can see on the right hand side where the vacuum will be like connected to a vacuum pump, or like the hose will be connected to a vacuum pump, and then we have those holes here in the rod to be able to access the air inside the rod, which will then eventually lead to the top where the wafer is positioned, to be able to evacuate the air. Because the red part is moving quite fast, right? It's turning. So since it's turning, we can't like just hook up a hose directly to the red part. We need to have this gap in between here, this space in between, where here on the right hand side with the future fitting where the vacuum pump is connected. The vacuum from here will suck out all this air, and then through the holes also the air inside of the rod will be sucked out, and then we will create this downforce here at the top and hold the wafer in place. That's the idea of the design. I think it makes kind of sense. Obviously we have a couple of weak points. So the ball bearings are obviously not vacuum tight. So we will have to pump continuously, to pump at a higher rate than we leak air into the system to maintain a certain vacuum level. This is a weak point that we faced later on as well. We will see this later in the videos, but that's kind of the whole concept and a couple of the weak points. But let's move back to the overall design. So we just saw the enclosure that we have all around where the ball bearings sit inside. So we have the channel in the middle and then the holes that are connecting to it. And then we have the vacuum fitting or the pneumatic fitting, which acts as a vacuum fitting, which will then eventually connect to a vacuum pump. Initially we tried to have this inside the enclosure, but we ended up needing a quite big vacuum pump because we had to overcome this leakage, as I mentioned before. So we have an external, like separate vacuum pump stationed separately outside of the device. Last but not least, turned out that the electric motors that you can get always have a different type of connection or a different type of rod where you need to connect to. So we need some intermediate piece here, usually to connect to our rod. Depending on the motor you use, we actually used 3 or 4 motors in all the iterations until we found one that was strong enough, but also a high enough RPM. So we will come to all this later in detail. So let's move on and take a look at all the experiments that we did. So this whole project was part of a student project. We had 2 teams competing, and as you can see here, this team had a job to make the positioning possible through laser or time of flight sensors. So the downside is that you need to have a target, and the wafer itself, or in this case it's just a 3D printed part, is too thin for the time of flight sensors to properly recognize. So you need this type of tape on there to have a big enough target. Problem, obviously, as you can see, the tape is not really in a straight line and so on, so you have a very high imprecision in the whole measurement process. Nevertheless, you see the software is working perfectly fine. You see the green or apparently sometimes orange arrows that are telling you to position in one or the other direction. Turning on the audio now a little bit, we can see we try here to ramp up to 4,500 RPMs, working relatively well. You heard the noise, so that's a lot of mechanical inaccuracy in the whole system that adds up eventually. Here you can see it without the cover, so it's all 3D printed parts here, nothing machined. That's why you have the noise, and you see also a little bit of a wobbly type of movement on the rod. But now you see we reach almost 6,000 RPMs here. So we keep going, and actually eventually we will reach the 6,000 RPM, but without a wafer here, without any sort of wafer or also circuit board, because our idea was also to use this to coat a circuit board with photosensitive coating, which is a bit of a challenge because a wafer that we would like to use is much smaller, and the circuit board is like 100 times 160, I think. Here you can also see the vacuum pump, and now can hopefully hear the noise, and everybody's laughing here because the wafer basically was disintegrating and getting loose and hitting the cover. So the downforce was here not big enough, option 1, or option 2, the wafer was not correctly positioned, as we have those inaccuracies due to the tape as a target. Moving on to the data, we have a bunch of internet connected data collection here with ThinkSpeak. We can see the RPM in the lower left corner, and then we have the dimensions of the sensors or the measurements of the sensors. The second team built a bit of a different device, and the job was here to do the positioning with a camera. So a whole different approach. You can see also here we have machine parts now, because the mechanical inaccuracies were constantly a problem with this project here, specifically with this team. So eventually they opted for machine parts, which gave them much more stability and much less like a loss in terms of force and energy that you lose due to friction and all the inaccuracy. You can see the cover is closed, the camera sits in the cover, and now we can see the empty box, basically no wafer, no nothing placed in there yet. Once you open, the camera moves with the lid. That's a bit of a weak point here, but eventually you need to access it and you need to place the camera somewhere. And you can also see that it's quite wobbly with the lid, so that's already giving us some inaccuracy here. So also here, I guess machine parts would be much better than the 3D printed parts, but we aimed for rapid prototyping. You can see now the system perfectly recognized the circuit board. In this case, it's 100 times 160 millimeter circuit board. It shows you the green crosshairs, and now we need to open again, reposition, and try to move into the direction where the red dot is, because the red dot is representing the center point of the circuit board. The system worked very well. Problem, obviously, you need to open, reposition, come back, so you never know if you're overshooting your target basically. The way it works is that it's recognizing the color difference basically between the circuit board or wafer and the background, and that's how it's recognizing the shape and then calculating the center point. So that's quite cool and quite advanced for a student project, so I was really happy with the result here. Moving on, you can see here the ramp of the RPM, and then we hold it at 6000 and we ramp down eventually. We couldn't reach 6000 RPM here with this setup, but that's kind of what the system is aiming for. This is a closer look of our external vacuum pump. It leaks a little bit of oil, that's why we have the cover on here. And now we are ready to get started. So we override the safety switch here that we can see inside, and we can see the circuit board spinning, which is quite cool, I think. Problem here, you can see the RPMs are just too low because the motor we needed that can have enough force to move everything smoothly was not one with a high enough RPM, so it's quite difficult to find the right combination here. You can also see that there's a lot of wobbling in the system, and that's from all the 3D printed parts around the machine parts. So here we need, for the next prototype, for next stage, we definitely need to have a whole machined housing. You can see here a little bit the suction, the downforce from the suction, which is okay, but also something that can be improved. So next step here would be to use not a standard O-ring, but also a O-ring that's much softer. There are special O-rings around that can give you just a much better seal to your circuit board or wafer or whatever. So there are a bunch of things that we need to improve. I think for the first 2 test projects in parallel was a high time pressure, and everybody started from scratch. It's quite impressive what the students achieved already. Me as a lecturer, I was just supervising but never giving the answer, just making suggestions, asking the right questions, and then the students evolved from there. So I think it's quite impressive what they achieved. Nevertheless, to-do list basically for the next one is have a proper mechanical setup. All those inaccuracies are adding up to not having it positioned properly. I think we will stick here with the camera approach. It's quite good, but we need to have a proper guidance of the lid, that the camera is always in the exact same spot. We need to have a proper housing, that the machined core, that the vacuum part is not wobbling within it. We need a better seal at the O-ring versus the interface to the wafer or to the circuit board. And we also need ball bearings that are more airtight, but also as smooth running as possible, which sounds easy, but it's actually not that easy to find. So overall, I think a really good proof of concept, and now we're going to take it to the next level together here. Quick shout out to JLC PCB who supported us here with a bunch of free parts, highly appreciated. And if you're interested in what we're doing here, feel free to follow along on the YouTube channel. Drop your comments in below if you have any suggestions how we can improve, or if you've done something like this before. And otherwise, thanks for watching and see you next time.